The first grade classroom was filled with colors and soft energy. Bright posters of letters, numbers, and friendly cartoon animals covered the walls. The air carried the familiar scent of wax crayons and sharpened pencils. Tiny voices murmured. Pencils danced on paper, and every so often, a light giggle slipped out. Miss Bennet moved quietly among the desks, her flats making barely a sound on the polished floor. She was the kind of teacher who smiled with her eyes and made every child feel seen. Her students adored her, not because she demanded respect, but because she gave it first. That morning, they were busy with a simple spelling test. Words like sun, dog, and hat. Most kids leaned over their papers, writing each letter with slow concentration. But one boy wasn't writing. Noah, a small 5-year-old with tousled dark hair, sat frozen at his desk. His hand clenched the pencil so tight his knuckles turned white. Usually, Noah was a ball of energy, laughing out loud, waving his hand to answer, never still. But today, his body curled in on itself, shoulders locked, eyes locked on the page, but not a single word was being written. Have you ever experienced something like this? Let us know in the comments and where you're watching from, because every voice deserves to be heard. When it was time to collect the papers, Miss Bennet moved from desk to desk, offering soft encouragement. A nice work here. Keep going there. Then she reached Noah's desk, and paused. His test page was nearly empty. At the bottom, in shaky letters, he had written just 2 words. Please help. Right below, a blurry smudge. A tear had soaked into the paper. Miss Bennet's stomach dropped at first. She wondered, was he trying to be silly? Kids sometimes wrote nonsense when they were unsure, but Noah wasn't the kind to make jokes like that. She knelt beside his chair, speaking softly. Noah, sweetheart, ... Are you okay? He didn't look up. His lips stayed tightly shut, and he gave a tiny nod, but his whole body was locked like a deer frozen in fear. Before she could ask more, the bell rang. Recess. Chairs scraped. Kids ran out laughing. Noah jumped up too fast. He pushed in his chair and darted into the hallway. Before she could stop him, Miss Bennet stood there holding his paper. Her pulse quickened. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones. She folded the test and placed it in her drawer. This wasn't something to forget. If a child asked for help, she had to listen. Outside, the hallway buzzed with the chaos of recess. Laughter echoed. Shoes thudded against the tiles. But Miss Bennet stood still, her thoughts miles away. Not on the noise, but on those 2 trembling words. She closed her classroom door and headed quickly to the staff lounge. It was nearly empty. The only sound a low hum from the coffee machine. She sat down at the small, round table and pulled out Noah's school file. She scanned it. Attendance, fine. Grades, normal. Notes, nothing alarming. He used to smile in every photo. Used to, because lately Noah was different. She leaned back, eyes closed, and remembered something. ... That day in the hallway, Miss Bennet had gently rested a hand on Noah's shoulder. It's just a noise, sweetheart. Nothing to be afraid of. He nodded quickly, but his eyes were wide, filled with something deeper than surprise. Fear. Then the week after, she noticed something else. It was warm out, but Noah came to school wearing a thick hoodie. The sleeves covered his hands completely. When he reached up to grab a book from the shelf, his cuff slid back for just a moment. That's when she saw it, a bruised deep purple fading to yellow right on his wrist. Noah. How did you get that? She asked softly. He quickly pulled the sleeve down. I tripped. He muttered it fast. Too fast. Sure, kids fall all the time, but something in the way he said it made her chest tighten. Now sitting alone in the teacher's lounge, Miss Bennet rubbed her forehead, troubled. Across the room, Mr. Douglas, the 4th grade teacher, poured himself a cup of coffee. Tough morning, he asked. She paused, then asked carefully, have you ever had a student write something ... worrying ... on a test? He shrugged. Kids scribble odd stuff all the time. Last week, Emma drew a dinosaur eating the principal. Miss Bennet didn't smile. This wasn't a drawing. He wrote, please help. Mr. Douglas froze for a second. Did you ask him about it? She nodded. He wouldn't talk. He just ran. There was a long pause. Then Mr. Douglas exhaled. It's probably nothing. Kids can be dramatic sometimes. But Miss Bennet's fingers tapped against the table. Her voice was low. But what if it's not nothing? The words settled like a weight in the air. She couldn't ignore the signs, the flinches, the silence, the bruise. She stood up and walked to the wall phone. Her hand hovered for a second, then dialed the number for the school counselor. When Ms. Coleman answered, Miss Bennet spoke quietly. I think we need to speak with Noah. Something isn't right. The counselor's office was warm, painted in soft yellow. A cozy rug covered the floor, and the scent of lavender drifted from a quiet diffuser. Toys and books lined the shelves. Stuffed animals, coloring books, soft building blocks. Noah sat on a blue couch, his small feet dangling above the floor. He clutched a worn-out teddy bear, his fingers nervously tugging at its fur. Miss Bennet sat beside him. Ms. Coleman, across from them, spoke gently, her voice like a calm breeze. Noah, Miss Bennet began, bending forward slightly. Do you remember your spelling quiz? He didn't lift his eyes. He just held the bear closer. You wrote something at the bottom? She continued. Do you remember what it was? No response. Ms. Coleman quietly placed a coloring book and a box of crayons on the table nearby. You don't have to say anything, Noah, she said. We can just color for a little while if you want. Noah looked at the crayons, but didn't move. He shrank into himself, like he was trying to vanish. Miss Bennet placed her hand gently on his arm, double quotes, Noah, ... When you wrote those words, were you trying to tell us something? Silence. Then, barely louder than a breath, I'm not allowed to say. The two women exchanged a glance. Ms. Coleman leaned in. Who told you that, sweetheart? Noah shook his head. His lips pressed together tight. Miss Bennet's voice stayed soft. It's safe here, Noah. You won't get in trouble. You can talk to us. His hand trembled on the teddy bear's ear. Then he whispered brokenly, Lena gets really mad when I talk too much. Lena, Miss Bennet asked. My dad's new wife. His voice was so small, like he was afraid someone might be listening, she yells. A lot. Double quotes. Ms. Coleman nodded slowly. What does she do when she's angry? Noah hesitated, swallowed. She ... She puts me in the hallway closet. Miss Bennet felt her breath catch. The closet. He nodded. The one near the stairs. It's dark, she locks it. Says bad kids go in the dark. His voice broke on the last word. A tear ran down his cheek. He wiped it fast, like it wasn't allowed. Miss Bennet's eyes stung. Without thinking, she reached out and gently took his cold hand. Don't want to go home, Noah whispered, his voice cracking. Asterisk. Miss Bennet gently squeezed Noah's hand. You're safe here, she said firmly, her voice low but steady. No one's going to hurt you. Double quotes. Ms. Coleman's expression had shifted, her warm smile gone, replaced by quiet urgency. She stood up and gestured subtly for Miss Bennet to join her in the corner of the room. In a whisper, Miss Coleman said, We need to contact Child Protection. Immediately. Miss Bennet nodded without hesitation. She glanced back. Noah still sat curled on the couch, his arms wrapped tightly around the teddy bear like it was the only thing holding him together. Her chest ached, but she knew there was no turning back. Now on speakerphone, a voice crackled to life. A woman from Child Protective Services spoke calmly. We're dispatching someone now. It'll take about an hour to arrive. Miss Bennet's heart sank. She turned toward the wall clock. 2:30 p.m., her voice tensed. An hour? Noah's father is scheduled to pick him up at 3? There was a pause, then the social worker sighed. I understand the timing's tight. Keep Noah on school grounds until we get there. Under no circumstances should he leave with the parent. Principal Martin rubbed his forehead. And if his father insists, stall him. The social worker replied firmly. But don't say anything. We don't want to alert him before we arrive. Miss Bennet stood abruptly, her chair squeaking across the tile. Noah's in the nurse's room now. I asked him to wait there for a bit. Good, the voice responded. Keep him there. We're on the way. The call ended. No one spoke. The air in the office was heavy still. Principal Martin cleared his throat. Miss Bennet, go stay with Noah's Coleman, and I will manage the front entrance if his father shows up. She nodded and rushed out. Her footsteps echoed down the corridor as her thoughts raced. What if he was already here? What if he tried to take Noah now? She pushed open the nurse's door. Noah sat quietly on the small cot, his legs swinging nervously, barely touching the floor. A juice box and cracker sat unopened beside him. He looked pale, frightened. Hey, sweetheart, Miss Bennet said, forcing a gentle smile. You're doing amazing. Just stay here with me a little longer, okay? Noah's eyes flicked to the clock. Daddy's coming, he whispered. Miss Bennet sat beside him and gently touched his shoulder. I know, but we're going to make sure you're safe, I promise. Then the nurse's phone buzzed. Miss Coleman's voice came through, quiet but urgent. Miss Bennet. His father's truck just pulled into the parking lot. Noah flinched, his body pressed back against the wall like he wanted to disappear into it. Miss Bennet's heartbeat pounded in her ears. She grabbed the walkie-talkie status on the social worker. Still 10 minutes away, Miss Coleman answered. Maybe 15. And Noah's father would be at the door in seconds. Miss Bennet inhaled deeply. She had to act. Tell him Noah stayed after for reading support. Say he has to come in and sign him out. There was a pause. Then Miss Coleman replied softly. Understood. Miss Bennet turned to Noah. His small hands trembled. It's going to be okay, she whispered. Just stay right here. With me. Somewhere down the hallway, a door creaked open. Heavy footsteps echoed on the tile floor. He was here, and the help they needed was still far away. The main entrance doors burst open. Noah's father stood in the doorway, his face tight, with impatience. But he wasn't alone. A woman stormed in behind him, tall, with sharp movements and heels that clicked like hammers. Her name was Lena. She scanned the room, eyes sharp. Where is he? She snapped. We're here to get Noah. Miss Bennet stepped forward slowly, positioning herself between them and the hallway that led to the nurse's office. Her palms were damp. Her voice, however, was calm. Noah stayed a little longer today for some extra support. Miss Bennet said, keeping her voice smooth. We just need you to sign him out first. Lena narrowed her eyes. This is ridiculous. He's 5. What kind of support could he possibly need? She stepped forward, trying to push past. We're taking him home now. Miss Bennet didn't move an inch. It's standard school policy, she said calmly, wearing a tight smile. We're just waiting for some forms from the front office. Noah's father folded his arms. Forms? We've never had to sign anything before. Miss Bennet opened her mouth to respond when the front doors swung open again. A woman in a navy blazer entered briskly, a police officer close behind her. Miss Bennet felt her knees go weak with relief when she saw the badge around the woman's neck. Child Protection Services. Lena spun toward them. What is going on here? The social worker stepped forward. Mr. and Ms. Turner, she said firmly, I need a few moments to speak with you about Noah. At that moment, Miss Coleman appeared from the hallway holding Noah's hand. The second Noah saw his father and Lena, his body stiffened. He whimpered softly and buried his face in Miss Bennet's sweater, clinging to her like a lifeline. Voice rose sharply. Noah, come here right now. The police officer stepped in. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to take a step back and calm down. The next hour passed in fragments. The social worker took Noah's father and Lena into the principal's office. The officer stood just outside the door. Miss Bennet stayed in the nurse's room, cradling Noah gently as she read to him. His small body shook with each word she spoke. Eventually, the social worker returned. She knelt in front of Noah with a soft smile. Hey, Noah, my name's Rachel. I've got some good news for you. Tonight, you'll be staying with a very kind lady. She has a big, fluffy dog named Charlie, and Charlie loves kids. Noah's eyes peeked up. A dog. Rachel smiled. A really cuddly one. And tomorrow, some other kind people will talk to you about what's been happening at home. But for tonight, you just get to hang out with Charlie. Sound okay? Noah nodded slowly. Miss Bennet helped him pack up his backpack, her hands trembling slightly as she zipped it closed. When it was time to leave, she knelt down and wrapped him in a hug. You are so brave, she whispered in his ear. Never forget that. Noah hugged her back tightly, then took Rachel's hand. As they walked out together, he turned one last time and waved. Miss Bennet waved back, watching until the car disappeared beyond the trees. She let out a deep, shaking breath and leaned against the doors of the school. Behind her, Principal Martin placed a hand gently on her shoulder. You did good today? Miss Bennet wiped her eyes and nodded. Today, she said quietly, we did what we're supposed to do. If this story moved you, leave a like and hit that subscribe button. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing your voices wherever you are. Thank you for watching.